Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Vibing with Sleezy, the podcast. This is season 7, episode 15. I want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in, and downloading. It's been a great season so far. I've had some great guests. I've been doing some solo episodes focused on sports and telling stories. But with this episode, it's going to be a part one and part two. With part one of episode 15, going to be covering round one of the NFL draft. And part two will be on episode 16, which will be covering round two of the NFL draft. So I'm going to break down round one here in this episode. I'm going to go over all the pick predictions, I think, for each team, kind of go over the draft, and just tell you who I think will be getting picked and kind of the teams in order. And that way it gets you ready for the draft that kicks off on Thursday this week. With number 16 episode that'll be coming out next, round two. I'm going to break down that, going over the teams and the picks as well. I've done an episode similar to this in the past, and like I said, these sports solo episodes are always popular, always fun, and I've been really wanting to make content on this. So it's been crazy so far. Like I said, mentioned on my last episode, started a new job and rolling with the podcast. Got some episodes coming out here for season 7 to finish out this season, and very excited that another season's almost in the books. 7 more episodes to go, which means including this one. But yeah, just really, really excited. And the NFL draft is always a fun time. Gets you ready. Me being a fantasy football player of the NFL, it always gets me excited of some rookies to pick for the team and kind of forecast how some of these teams will play out. This episode also, doing these type of episodes, gets more coverage where people that are now really loving the NFL and football can tune in and get ready for the draft. So the NFL draft this year, 2026, is coming from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of the Steelers. Pittsburgh already has a lot of people and media in town. I noticed that on the field for the draft, they already have like a building that is set up on the field there at Pittsburgh's field, and it's got top sports cards written there on the top. Dan Patrick's show, one of my favorite sports shows, they're already in Pittsburgh this week filming content. I noticed that Seaton, who has just stepped down from the show, doing more media coverage. He interviewed a local 88-year-old guy out of Pittsburgh, and so a lot of people are hyped, and that's a fun city. I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, Cincinnati Reds fan, so Pittsburgh's always been a big rivalry for me. Shout out to Nick Guida. He was always my college roommate. He was a Pittsburgh fan. I'm a Cincy fan, so we'd always battle it out. And I know a lot of Steeler fans, but at the end of the day, I think it's great for the city of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a lot to highlight. It's a fun town, so if you haven't got to make it up there, definitely check it out. I also have heard exciting NFL news. Living in Louisville, Kentucky, can't predict where the future holds, where I'll be living, or if I'll still be here in Louisville, or moving to another city. But either way, very excited to hear that Nashville, with their new stadium that they're building downtown, they will host Super Bowl in 2030. So, no one has a clue who the two teams will be playing or the halftime show, but it's great that Nashville's finally getting to host the Super Bowl, finally getting, the recognition there. And it's pretty much proven the point that with this new stadium that they're building with downtown Nashville, it's right off the freeway, that not only will this be huge for the NFL, Super Bowl, and football, but they're going to have big concerts and a lot of big things, and Nashville's just growing and growing and growing. So let's start off with the NFL draft round one, the main focus of this episode. So the number one pick, everyone knows this year, goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders now, with ownership from Tom Brady, they had a very controversial offseason trying to trade Max Crosby. That trade didn't go through with Baltimore, and they end up spending a fortune. So they're really trying to build a team out there, and they're really trying to get the momentum to move forward because they've had so many failed years. But them being in Vegas now, them having one of the most popular stadiums in all of football, everybody's trying to back the Raiders. And with Clint Kubiak, their, new coach, and they got a second year GM, John Spytek, it's going to be big. So with the Raiders, everyone knows the number one pick is going to go to Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana. The quarterback who led Indiana to the national championship. Everyone loves him. Uh, he's got that squeaky clean image and hungry to play. Tom Brady's always been his hero. They did move Kirk Cousins, which was a big move for the Raiders, and a lot of people think they're moving Kirk out there to mentor Mendoza, but that is how that first pick's going to go, and that's how every expert picks. And again, this is just my opinions. I'm using experts' data and going over it, and I'm gonna tell you every team accurate. But there's already been trades, there's already been moves that have kind of shaken up the draft. My Cincinnati Bengals already have definitely shaken things up with the Dexter Lawrence trade. Cincinnati traded their number 10 pick to the New York Giants for Dexter Lawrence, and then we re-signed Dexter to a massive over 20 million plus 1 year deal. So for the second pick, the New York Jets, I believe they're going to pick David Bailey, the edge out of Texas Tech. Bailey with 14 and a half sacks last season. Very, very talented player, and they need defensive help in New York. The Arizona Cardinals with the third pick, I have Arvell Reese, the edge out of Ohio State. Ohio State is just a powerhouse. Their coach, Ryan Day's already come out saying, if you ain't a first rounder or second rounder, don't even come to our school. So they produce very talented NFL players. So Avril Reese is my pick for the third pick. The Tennessee Titans, new coach with Robert Salah down there, and like I said, new stadium coming about, and they're trying to get massive support for Cam Ward, somebody that they still believe in down there in Tennessee. And that's going to be Sonny Styles, linebacker of Ohio State. So I got two Buckeyes going back to back. For the New York Giants, I got the star running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love is a player that people don't realize. You don't get a lot of running backs this talented, this young. There's special ones, and then there's ones that are just like, they'll make an impact, but Jeremiah Love is going to make an impact. He is an offensive weapon, and pretty much the key general fact with the New York Giants, they need key offensive weapons. So very, very excited to see how that plays out with Jeremiah Love ending up in New York. And again, this is all my predictions. So if it doesn't play out, it's all good. This is fun, and you're getting some info before you start seeing who's getting picked tomorrow. The Cleveland Browns already, got a new coach, and things are getting crazy. Miles Garrett didn't show to the voluntary workouts, and they're making a big deal, and it's like, who cares? Miles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in NFL history. He's going to be fine. All their players that didn't show up, they're going to be conditioned. And Cleveland hired an offensive coach. And the thing about Cleveland is, with them having a new offensive coach, it's pretty much they're trying to get an offense started there. And GM Andrew Barry, you know, he's going to have to do some building. And they also Titus Howard is a new option to play left tackle. He's a veteran, so this could pair out good. But I have Francis Mayoga, the offensive tackle out of Miami. So coming from the U, that's who I think is going to Cleveland. The Washington Commanders, I got Mansour Delane, the cornerback out of LSU. LSU was the big talk all over college football with Lane Kiffin and all that hoopla that happened, with Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU. But this cornerback definitely stepped out. He pretty much, his versatility he can play man or zone. I mean, he's a very, very talented player. So Mansour Delane going to Washington. The eighth pick in the first round, New Orleans Saints. I got Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Tyler Shaw, who came from U of L here in Louisville, Kentucky. He is an awesome quarterback. He's a second year quarterback. I think they have a bright future with Tyler. There was a lot of hype on him, even won a Rookie of the Year award. So I believe New Orleans is going to back him, and hopefully, even though I'm a Kentucky fan, hopefully this kid out of U of L can keep having the success there in New Orleans. But he's going to need weapons. I mean, New Orleans needs weapons, and Kamara with his injuries and getting older, he's not the go-to. And New Orleans is always, back in the day, have had big wide receiver weapons. But yeah, Carnell Tate is who I'm picking as the pick for the Saints. The Kansas City Chiefs, Ruben Bain Jr., the edge out of Miami, is who I'm thinking. Um, you know, this is where I just believe Kansas City needs defense. They always figure it out on offense. Mahomes always figures it out. They don't have to have crazy weapons. I mean, I almost compare their offense sometimes to those Belichick Patriot teams where you don't even know half the players on the offense, but they're still winning every ball game. So as long as they got some defense going, and I think it's going to support Chris Jones, who's their main defensive star there in the Chiefs. I think Ruben Bank Jr. is a great pick there out of the U, and I just think that's going to be a big time. The New York Giants got the 10th pick, like I said, in that Dexter Lawrence trade from the Cincinnati Bengals, and I believe they're going to pick Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State. There's already some talks today. I actually recording this today on the 22nd, Wednesday, the day before the draft, and already heard from Colin, Coward on his show, which sometimes his takes I don't always agree with, but he was already getting a little frustrated hearing that the Giants were looking to go other routes and kind of switch it around, maybe not focus on the defense. But I believe with Caleb Downs, that safety out of Ohio State, that is another key weapon they're going to need. And they just need some stuff there in the secondary. And again, another buck out just because the Buckeyes just they produced a lot of weapons. The number 11 pick, the Miami Dolphins. I got Spencer Fano, the offensive lineman out of Utah. He's going to be definitely big time. I think with the GM John Eric Sullivan, he's going to need versatile offensive linemen. I think it's going to be very, very interesting in Miami. I don't think it's going to be a huge successful year, but they're hoping that Austin Jackson, their veteran right tackle, can stay healthy because he's there in the final contract. So they're going to need some offensive linemen to definitely, for future insurance purposes, even for future seasons. Number 12 pick, I got the Dallas Cowboys. I got Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. He's been posting a lot of social media content. That was another one that was discussed on Colin Coward. That was another one that possibly the Giants were looking to pick and make their player. But George Pickens, he's the star wide receiver down in Dallas. Already been franchise tagged. The Cowboys, they're guaranteed with Pickens, and I think that they want weapons. Jerry Jones is already bragging about the position and the location that they are in, and I just believe that they're really, really going to have to, you know, get offensive players, but to maybe pick a wide receiver, I just don't know. Now they did restart a contract situation, re-signed their 4 year with Brandon Aubrey, their kicker. Aubrey just became a $7 million a year guy, making $28 million over 4 years. So, Dallas is trying to do everything. Looks like they're throwing stuff at the board, but Dak Prescott needs help. I mean, and I hate to say it, but he freaking needs it every year. And overall too, it's like I don't know. Dallas is just always seems like they can't pick the right person in the draft. Number 13, the Los Angeles Rams. They got this trade from the Atlanta Falcons. I got Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. Nobody knows how long Stafford's going to continue playing, even though he MVP last year. He's going to have another amazing year. And then you have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, which they already were trying to leave Adams, and he only has one season left on his contract. So I think the Rams are really going to try to go all out, and they want to have as many weapons as they can for Stafford. And the Los Angeles Rams franchise, they are never afraid to spend money, and everyone knows that. The number 14 pick, the Baltimore Ravens, which again I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, they have had a very interesting offseason. that Max Crosby deal falling through. Now a new coach. They moved on from Harbaugh, who's now with the Giants. So going to be very interesting. But Lamar Jackson, who's still there, who's still invested in Baltimore, still the star player, he needs help. So I got Oliveira Eon, the guard out of Penn State, going to Baltimore. Number 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They need defensive help big time. They got offense, and Todd Bowles is a great defensive coach. I also don't think he's afraid of picking an older player that's a veteran player out of college. And, Akeem Mesidor, the edge out of Miami, again, another Hurricane player. The Hurricanes were in the national championship against Indiana. Indiana got all the hype, but we forget that you really brought it this year. Mesidor with 12 and a half sacks and 7.5 tackles for a loss and four forced fumbles in his final college season. Who would not want that on their team? This dude's going to bring it in the NFL. The number 16 pick, the New York Jets, that actually came from the Indianapolis Colts. I got Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana. That was Mendoza's favorite target. Garrett Wilson, he needs a running mate at wide receiver. Garrett Wilson can't catch all the balls. He can't be the main guy. So, with this being Mendoza's top option in Indiana, this guy really, really was a star for the national championship team, and his run and catch ability is unbelievable. I mean, he's just full of explosive plays. The Detroit Lions, I have Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. Jared Goff needs help. Same thing with these other teams. Offensive line help is big time. They tried to bring back, veteran linemen. It fell through with the physical. Detroit is considered moving all pro Penei Sewell from right tackle to left, which he'll be able to do it, but that's going to be a big thing. And they're going to need an elite prospect on that offensive line. And again, Jared Goff, who has been playing great football the past couple seasons, he needs protection because, you can't be a star quarterback throwing balls, making big plays, and getting hit half the game as well. It's going to eventually take a toll on you and the body and the offense. And that division is getting tough. I mean, it is so tough across the board in that division. I just think it's crazy. The Minnesota Vikings, with the 18th pick, I think they're going to go safety. They've been so focused on offense the past 2 years, and I think they're going to get Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. Dylan Thieneman, he's a very big star player. The Vikings, have not given up on the return, for longtime starter Harrison Smith, who's contemplating retirement. But if Smith is off the roster for now, Thieneman is too good and versatile a prospect to pass over. And I just think people are really gonna want to see him play up in Minnesota. Number 19, I got the Carolina Panthers. That is going to be Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon, as my pick. Greg Olson was the best elite tight end Carolina's had, and that's been over a decade. So Bryce Young needs other weapons. Titiro McMillan, who had the huge rookie campaign last year, which was a super level, like next level smart pick for the Carolina Panthers. That is where Bryce Young, he's another quarterback. He needs weapons. He's finally got in that role. He finally looks comfortable as an NFL quarterback, even though he has that small size. And I think Carolina really, really needs to focus big time on the offense. The next pick is the Dallas Cowboys again at 20th. That's why Jerry Jones is so excited for the draft, but Jerry Jones does Jerry Jones stuff. They got this pick from the Green Bay Packers, and I believe they're going to go defense. I believe they're going to pick the cornerback out of Tennessee, Colton Hood. Hood was a full starter for only 1 year, but he had such a productive year, and it was at his third school in 3 years, so he's moved around a lot. But it looks like he finally got comfortable in that role, and I just believe that Hood has some growing to do, so that's why he's not a first 10 picks kind of guy. But Dallas needs some help in the secondary. Pittsburgh Steelers. They have the 21st pick. The whole crowd's going to go absolutely crazy there in Pittsburgh. And they are going to go wide receiver. They need offensive help. Pittsburgh is another team. Tomlin's gone. He's now going to be a broadcaster for NBC Sports, which I think is going to be great. He always has good input. Even as a Bengals fan, you got to respect Tomlin and his success. But Pittsburgh needs offensive help. They really really do. So KC consumption, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, that's who I think they're going to pick, and I believe he'll be the number 2 pick behind DK Metcalf. The Los Angeles Chargers got the number 22 pick, the other hardball out there, doing big things. And Jermon McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee, is who I think is going to be the pick. I think that McCoy had a right ACL tear. It dropped him there for a bit. But I just believe that the talent, it's there. And I think too, he had 4 interceptions, 7 passes defense, and 44 tackles for the Volunteers, and playing in a very tough SEC league last year. So the Chargers in Harbaugh, he knows how to kind of work with players that are coming off injuries, and he's also coached at the college level. He's played at the NFL level, so he kind of knows, how to get the guy ready, even if he's maybe coming off a big injury. The number 23 pick is the Philadelphia Eagles. I got Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington. Um, we all know Philly's moving on from AJ Brown. He's going to the Patriots. Again, nothing locked down 100%, but it looks like he definitely will move. And I just believe that Philly's going to need some, they're going to need some help. And Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore, the 1 year deals, which and they already, which looking at the info of the data here, Dante Vian Wicks, he's already now traded to Green Bay. So general manager Howie Roseman, he'll not be shy about adding more playmakers, and I think Devontae Smith, is definitely there to help. They need to complement a guy, but yeah, this is where Denzel Boston will be that guy. The Cleveland Browns, the 24th pick, they got that from the Jaguars. I got Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo. Toledo had a really good football season last year. I think this guy is a huge asset on weapon, and I think too, he is just a playmaking safety. They're used to having 3 safety lineups, and in the past, but that's such a high rate that they've used. But overall, he's interchangeable. He's a versatile role, and I believe that they have other guys that can kind of help him get ready for the NFL. The 25th pick is going to be the Chicago Bears. Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, another player like I was mentioned, Jared Goff, same division. They need protection. They need to protect Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, the Iceman. I mean, he made big plays. He really came out in year 2. He needs help. He needs big time protection. So this is going to be a huge, huge pick for the Bears. The number 26 pick is the Buffalo Bills. I got Cassius Howell, the edge out of Texas A&M. Again, another big SEC guy. I believe that this guy has as much, almost fast as speed as Will Anderson Jr., the star in Houston. And I think too, his speed of 14.52 miles per hour when rounding a corner, that's NFL all day. That's first round pick all day. That's what you need in Buffalo. And Buffalo needs defensive help. Josh Allen can't carry that whole team on his back, even though the NFL and everyone goes so crazy over, um, you know, I guess to kind of describe it, Josh Allen, it just seems like they don't realize that, hey, if the guy don't have other key weapons, he can't do it all. The San Francisco 49ers come in with the 27th pick. I believe they're going to go offensive tackle. They got to have somebody to help Brock Purdy. They just re-signed Trent Williams to a huge 2 year extension, but he's going to eventually retire. And they're going to need left side help. So Caleb Lamu, the offensive tackle out of Utah, is my pick there. The number 28 pick, the Houston Texans, they're going to pick Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Another Buckeye, another first round guy. And I just believe that this guy, he's really going to bring it. He played a really good structure defense last year. And I just think that they will definitely need him in Houston. And again, Will Anderson Jr., he can't do it all. The Kansas City Chiefs got a trade in the 29th pick for the Los Angeles Rams. I got them going defensive tackle again with Peter Woods out of Clemson. And what I mean by that, I just believe they need depth. They're going to need help, and they're going to need big time defensive pick. And so adding another defensive lineman is going to be huge for them. the Miami Dolphins, who got a trade from the Denver Broncos. I got Keldrick Faulk, the edge out of Auburn. Again, I just think this first round draft is going to be a big push on defense. Defensive players and making sure defenses are utilized correctly. And him coming out of Auburn, he played in a very tough SEC. And, with wide receivers being off the board, that pick is there. And, he's got big size, 6'6", 275 pounds. He's still developing as a pass rusher, but he's got that excellent form. And I just believe he's really, really going to be doing big things if he lands there in Miami. The New England Patriots, who played in the Super Bowl, they are coming with the number 31 pick, and I believe they're going to pick Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson. Mike Vrabel had a very controversial offseason with the affair, with Diana Rossini. We don't even know what really happened. She resigned from the Athletic. He's come out making a statement to his family and team and organization. So, Mike's going to try to, even though he had that amazing year last year, he's going to try to throw that back, behind him. And Will Campbell really needed some help. Even though he had a decent year, he needs some help. And then, they got 35-year-old Morgan Moses at the starting right tackle. And I just think that Miller is going to bring that youth, that size, and a big key time player to the Patriots. He's 6'6", 317 pounds. And then rounding up the first round of the NFL draft, the Seattle Seahawks with the 32nd pick, the Super Bowl champs. I believe they're going to pick Chris Johnson, the cornerback out of San Diego State. They're going to stay with the West Coast guy. I believe the Seahawks are really wanting to, excel on defense. We already know that Sam Darnold in the offense is strong, but I just believe the Seahawks are really going to need some help there in that secondary. So if they want to, make that Super Bowl run again, Seattle will have a very good year, I think, next year. But I also think the LA Rams with that offense is going to, give them some running for their money. So with teams like the LA Rams having such offensive wide receiver weapons and being kind of their rival out there, and also the 49ers having weapons, I believe Chris Johnson from San Diego State, he's going to be a guy that can really help out in the secondary for the Seahawks. So, this is episode 15. This is round one of the NFL draft. I hope you're excited for the NFL draft out of Pittsburgh on Thursday. This should get you ready and knowing how the picks will be in order, who I think is going to be going to which team, so there's no true surprises. And let's see if I'm right. But enjoy the NFL season, enjoy the NFL draft, and round two will be coming up in episode 16. Thank you, everybody, for listening. BibleWithSleazy.com, the website, Bible with Sleazy, the podcast on Facebook, Instagram. Love you all. Peace.